Hey guys, this is going to be a video on explaining why coil machines are so good to learn on when you're first getting into tattooing, that is, as opposed to rotary machines. I briefly touched on this subject on a video I made called The Fundamental Differences Between Coil and Rotaries. So I briefly touched on it, but I think it's a subject that warrants its own video because I can go a bit more in depth on this video as to why coil machines are really good to learn with. And people, they usually have like quite opinionated and strong views for or against coil machines or for or against rotary machines. You hear the term loyal to the coil. You know, some people they'll always use coil machines, and then you get some people that just won't touch coil machines. But this video is purely to explain why, in my opinion, that a coil machine is the best thing to learn on and not to jump onto rotary machines. And if you see my other videos, you know, if you've subscribed to my channel, I repeat a lot in the videos, always start with a coil machine. If you're just getting into tattooing, if you're an apprentice or whatever, but if you're just getting into the trade, always start with a coil machine. That's always been my advice. Well, this video is gonna, like I say, it's gonna explain why coil machines are so good to learn with, why you learn so much about them, and also why they're a lot safer for your client, for you to learn with a coil machine as opposed to using a rotary machine if you don't know what you're doing. Not that you should be tattooing if you don't know what you're doing. So let's get into it. A coil machine, I'm only just going to quickly brief over how a coil machine works because I've already mentioned this. If you look at, if you've not watched it already, the fundamental differences between coil and rotary, go and check that out and then come back to this video because I explain how a coil machine works in that. But basically, you pass power through your machine. These coils turn to magnets. In turn, what happens to metal when a magnet's present? It attracts metal to it. So basically this armature bar is metal, these turn to magnets, and so it pulls the armature bar down, which in turn pulls the needle down into the skin. And once the armature bar is pulled down, it breaks the contact with the front spring, so therefore in essence they're no longer magnets anymore, so it lets go of it. And when it touches it again, these turn to magnets, and so on. It goes up and down like that. Really simple, really effective. Now, why these are really good to learn on is because you can actually set these machines so you've got just enough power in these magnets for the needle to hit the skin at the right depth if you set them correctly and if your machine's tuned correctly. So I'm not talking about Mickey Mouse machines off eBay that don't run at the right CPS. I'll be making a video soon actually on the differences between the cheap eBay machines against something decent like this, Mickey Sharps. And I'll actually show you the difference between them. So again, it's not just me saying, oh, don't buy knockoff machines. I'll back it up with why you shouldn't buy knockoff machines, but that's another video for another day. Okay, so when we add power to these machines, like I say, if you go to my other video, it explains that the speed is controlled with the screw at the top here, and the force that the machine hits is controlled with putting power into the machine, which turns these into magnets. So if you put a little bit of power in this machine, you're going to have a weak magnet. Weak enough actually that sometimes you'll get what's called ghosting, where the armature bar doesn't even click into place. It doesn't even click on this front, it doesn't make contact on this front coil, and it just sort of like hover like that. So you know, you crank the juice up until you're making contact. Now here's the thing, here's how you can set a coil machine so you're hitting at the right depth. Okay, so let's just say that this is the skin. And ideally what you want to be aiming for is to sit the ink in the second layer of skin. So let's say this is our needle coming down here and we want the ink to be sat in this area here. Okay, so if we're going too shallow in this area, it's going to fall out with the wind, and if we're going to go here, this is the nasty area, this is where we're going to get a blowout. And a blowout is basically when the ink goes into like a layer of fat and it spreads out under the skin. And if you see a lot of amateur tattoos, script or anything like that, it'll look all blurry around the edges and it looks all smudged on the skin, and that's a blowout. That's because the tattooist has gone too deep. Now, with a rotary machine, rotaries work completely different to coil machines. Rotary machines work with a motor turning, in essence, and it's basically like a sewing machine. So you imagine let's move this aside. So we're talking about rotaries now. So with a rotary machine, it doesn't matter what speed you set the machine to, that needle is going to do the full cycle, coming down and coming back up. So it's down to the tattooist to control the depth, and you control the depth with obviously your hand. I don't advise anyone to ride the tube, and that's basically, riding the tube is basically when you set the depth of your needle to the actual depth that you want it going in the skin, and then you basically drag the tip along the skin. It's a way of tattooing, it's not a way I'd advise, simply because you can't get the accuracy when you're doing that, because you find what happens is the tip is actually covering half the work that you're doing. You can't really see where you're tattooing. So I always advise, this is the way I tattoo anyway. I have quite a lot of it hanging out, and I control the depth with my hand. So, you know, I know how much pressure I'm putting on the skin, depending on the body part and the area of the skin, but I know I'm controlling the depth with my actual hand holding the machine. Now, controlling depth with the needle is something that you get, it's a little bit of science and it's a lot of feel. You get a feel for it, you know, and it's like anything, the more you do it, the more you get used to it, the better you get at it. And it's no different with tattooing. Now, if you just run straight in with a rotary machine and you don't really know what you're doing with depth, the chances are, like I say, that this rotary machine is going to do its full cycle. So the needle's going to come down the tube, it's going to do its full cycle and come back up. So if you're holding your hand on this, if you're going in too deep with the needle on the skin, that needle's going to go right down here and blow out straight into this area. And it's just going to keep doing that. You might land a few in here and then you might come down into here, and that's why rotary machines, they're the best left until you really know what you're doing with a tattoo machine before you jump onto rotary machines. Now, here's the thing with a coil machine. This needle coming up and down, let's say it's coming up and down into the skin, you can actually set the power on these magnets so the resistance of the skin stops the needle. So if that's making sense. So basically you can set the power on this, you know, you don't crank it right up, you sort of like turn it up in increments, so it's just ticking over nicely, and you can actually make it, when the needle comes down into the skin like this, you can actually set it so the resistance of the skin is actually slowing the needle down to the point where it stops, because the magnets have got no more power to pull it down, and then it pings back up obviously with the backspring and takes it back up. And you can actually set a coil machine to do that, and you can't do that with a rotary machine. And let me run this machine now and explain to you what I mean. So I'm going to plug this in. Now I've set this machine so it's just got enough volts so you can hear it clicking in. Listen to this. You know that? That's the noise it's making. It's just connecting on the front coil there. But watch what happens. See, we've got all this needle hanging out. We've got quite a lot of needle hanging out there. But watch what happens. Because I've not got a lot of power going into these, you know, I've just got the power set, so it's just enough to make contact with this front coil. There's not even enough power to penetrate the skin. Watch. Nothing at all. Now, if I did this with a rotary machine, it'd just go straight in. But you'd see pinpricks of blood coming out of my hand right now. Look, so I'll show you again. I'm running this machine, and I'm going to actually run it now, and I'm going to actually put it all the way down to the end of the tip. I'm going to push it all the way down on my skin. Watch. Pushing that all the way down, look. You can see the tips on the skin there, dragging across the skin, look. Nothing. Nothing there at all. And that's because these coils are not powerful enough. They're powerful enough to bring the armature bar down, but as soon as the resistance of the skin hits on the needle, it's just not got the power to pull it down. And what we can do is, we can set the machine so we can start adding a little bit more power, just to get these charging up, you know, to get these stronger, make the magnet stronger. And what you can do is you can actually set it so, you know, when you pull a line, the needle is just going straight into where it should be going. And that's why coil machines are so good to start off with when you're first getting into tattooing. Now, I don't mean, like I've said, I don't mean getting a cheap knockoff one, because the fact that they don't reach the CPS that you should be reaching, and just running inconsistently. You know, they don't run like a nice fluid speed and maintain a fluid speed. They'll be going up and down and all sorts of stuff. So this is why, guys, I recommend coils in all my videos. So hopefully that's explained a few things out and helped a few people out. And don't forget to like and subscribe to my channel if you've liked this video, and there'll be some more videos coming soon. Thanks, guys.